In the vast expanse of the cosmos, where stars danced like diamonds scattered across an endless velvet canvas, there existed a planet unlike any other. Silvaris shone with an ethereal glow, its atmosphere refracting light into cascading rainbows that painted the skies in perpetual twilight. The inhabitants of this celestial paradise were equally extraordinary, their crystalline skin shimmering with iridescent hues that shifted with their emotions. Among them stood Princess Alarion, whose beauty transcended even the most poetic descriptions penned by Silverian bards. For 23 revolutions of her world around its twin suns, Alarion had remained silent. Her voice, once described as the harmonious symphony of starlight and moonbeams, had vanished without explanation on her 10th birthday. The royal court physicians, despite their advanced knowledge spanning centuries, could find no physical cause for her muteness. The silence that enveloped the princess became more than just the absence of sound. It transformed into an impenetrable barrier between her and her people. The royal family's anguish manifested in countless attempts to break through their daughter's self-imposed isolation. They organized grand festivals featuring performances by the galaxy's finest artists, constructed elaborate gardens filled with exotic flora from neighboring star systems, and even arranged diplomatic visits from dignitaries of allied planets. Yet nothing could coax a single word from the princess's lips. Her presence at court functions became a haunting tableau, a living statue of incomparable beauty, observing everything with eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within their depths, yet never uttering a sound. As years passed, the mystery of Alarion's silence grew into legend. Scholars theorized about mystical curses or ancient prophecies, while conspiracy theorists whispered about political machinations within the royal court. The media fabricated endless narratives, each more fantastical than the last, about the silent princess. Despite the constant speculation, Alarion continued her existence in quiet dignity, her daily routine marked by solitary walks through the crystal gardens and hours spent gazing at the stars from her private observatory. Her parents, Emperor Valon and Empress Muriel, maintained a stoic facade in public while privately wrestling with despair. Their chambers often echoed with whispered arguments and tearful prayers, their hearts aching for the daughter they felt slipping further away with each passing day. The palace staff, who had watched Alarion grow from a precocious child into a graceful young woman, moved through their duties with heavy hearts, each carrying their own theories about what might have caused the princess's withdrawal from the world. Among the royal guard stationed throughout the palace, stories circulated about how Alarion would sometimes stand motionless for hours, her eyes fixed on distant stars visible through the transparent domes of the palace towers. Some claimed she was communicating with beings beyond human understanding, while others believed she was simply lost in memories too painful to share. Regardless of the truth, the princess's silence had become a defining characteristic of the Silverian monarchy, casting a shadow over what should have been a reign of unparalleled prosperity and peace. The arrival of the human delegation triggered unprecedented excitement throughout the Silverian Empire. For centuries, contact between humans and Silverians had been limited to cautious diplomatic exchanges and carefully monitored trade agreements. This visit, however, marked the first time a substantial human presence would grace the halls of the Crystal Palace. The delegation consisted of scientists, diplomats, and cultural ambassadors from Earth's United Nations Space Command, all eager to establish stronger ties with their advanced neighbors. Princess Alarion observed the preparations from her private quarters, her interest piqued by the unusual activity permeating the palace. Servants bustled about, transforming staterooms with hybrid decor that blended Silverian elegance with human practicality. The air itself seemed charged with anticipation, carrying whispers of humanity's technological marvels and cultural achievements. Despite her years of silence, Alarion found herself drawn to the windows overlooking the landing platform, watching as the sleek human spacecraft descended through Silvaris's rainbow-laden atmosphere. The leader of the human delegation arrived 2 days before the official ceremonies were scheduled to begin. Captain Elias Drake, a seasoned space explorer with piercing blue eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of countless star systems, stepped off his ship with a confidence that commanded attention. His presence carried none of the arrogance that often accompanied those of great achievement. Instead, he moved with a quiet assurance that spoke of years spent navigating both the vastness of space and the complexities of diplomacy. The Silverian courtiers immediately took notice of his respectful demeanor and genuine curiosity about their culture. What set Captain Drake apart from previous human visitors was his unconventional approach to cross-species relations. Rather than relying solely on translators and formal protocols, he had spent months studying Silverian customs and language. His efforts showed in the subtle gestures he used during introductions and the careful consideration he gave to each interaction. When presented to the royal family, he bowed with precisely the correct degree of reverence, his movements fluid and natural rather than stiffly rehearsed. Alarion watched these proceedings from the shadows of the grand hall, her heart beating with an unfamiliar rhythm. Something about Captain Drake's presence resonated deeply within her, though she couldn't articulate why. Perhaps it was the way he seemed to truly listen when others spoke, or how his gaze lingered on details others might overlook. The intricate patterns in the crystal walls, the delicate dance of light through the floating gardens. Whatever the reason, she found herself lingering near the edges of gatherings, observing him with an intensity that surprised even herself. The human delegation's arrival coincided with the annual Starlight Festival, and Captain Drake proved remarkably adept at participating in Silverian traditions. He joined in the ceremonial dances with grace that belied his alien physiology, learned the complex rhythms of Silverian music, and demonstrated an uncanny ability to predict the shifting patterns of the crystal blooms in the royal gardens. Each display of cultural understanding seemed to draw Alarion closer, though she maintained her distance, content to observe from afar while her heart waged an internal battle against the silence that had defined her existence for so long. During one particularly illuminating evening beneath the multicolored skies, Captain Drake found himself alone in the Royal Observatory, a place he had heard was sacred to the Silent Princess. As he studied the ancient star charts etched into the crystalline walls, he noticed movement out of the corner of his eye. Turning slowly, he saw Princess Alarion standing in the doorway, her presence both commanding and ethereal. Unlike their previous encounters where she had remained at a distance, tonight she approached him with deliberate steps that seemed to echo through the very fabric of the room. Drake instinctively adopted the traditional Silverian gesture of respect, but something in Alarion's expression made him pause. Her eyes, which had always held an inscrutable depth, now sparkled with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. For the first time since his arrival, he felt the weight of true connection pressing against the boundaries of species and protocol. Without thinking, he reached out his hand, not toward her physically, but in a universal gesture of invitation that transcended cultural barriers. The moment stretched taut, the air between them crackling with unspoken possibilities. Alarion's fingers twitched at her side, and for a heartbeat, Drake thought she might retreat back into her practiced solitude. Instead, she took another step forward, her crystalline form catching the ambient starlight in ways that made her appear almost liquid. The captain's breath caught as he realized her lips were parting, not in the practiced smile she occasionally offered at formal functions, but in preparation for something far more significant. "Captain Drake," the words emerged, soft yet carrying the resonance of ancient stars. The entire room seemed to vibrate with the sound, as if the very walls had been waiting for this moment. Drake's knees threatened to buckle, not from shock but from the overwhelming realization that he was witnessing something monumental, something that would alter the course of interstellar relations forever. "I have watched you," Alarion continued, her voice weaving through the chamber like a melody composed of forgotten dreams. "Your kind moves through our world with purpose and wonder, yet you see beyond the surface. You understand that our crystals are not merely decorative, that our silence is not emptiness." She paused, her gaze locking with his in a way that made Drake feel as though she could see directly into his soul. The princess moved closer, her footsteps creating ripples in the energy field that protected the observatory's sensitive instruments. "Humans wear their emotions openly, yet you possess a depth of understanding that rivals our own. Your species has evolved differently, yes, but not less significantly. And you—" She hesitated, her voice faltering for the first time. "You carry something within you that resonates with my people's ancient frequencies." Drake swallowed hard, his mind racing to process not just the fact that Alarion was speaking after years of silence, but the profound meaning behind her words. "Your Highness," he began, his voice steadier than he expected, "I've spent my life seeking connections between civilizations. But I never imagined—" Alarion raised a slender hand, silencing him with a gesture that felt more like a caress than a command. "Do not speak of imagination, Captain. Speak of truth. My silence was not chosen. It was necessary. Until now." She turned toward the observation window, where the twin moons of Silvaris were beginning their nightly dance. "Our people have waited generations for a bridge between worlds. Someone who could understand without judgment, who could see without prejudice. Someone who could hear our silence not as absence, but as potential. The captain moved to stand beside her, careful to maintain the appropriate distance while feeling an irresistible pull toward her presence. "Your Highness, if I may ask, why now? Why me?" His question hung in the air, heavy with implications neither of them fully understood. Alarian's response came not in words, but in a subtle shift of her stance, a slight inclination of her head that brought them fractionally closer. "Because you carry the key to our future, Captain Drake. Not in your hands, but in your willingness to listen. In your capacity to understand that communication extends far beyond spoken language." She turned to face him fully, her crystalline features catching the moon's light in patterns that seemed to spell out ancient secrets. The revelation struck Drake with the force of a supernova. All his years of study, all his diplomatic training, had led him to this moment, not to witness history, but to participate in its creation. As Alarion continued speaking, her words unfolding like petals of some cosmic flower, he realized that her voice carried more than just sound. It conveyed the hopes of two civilizations, the dreams of countless generations, and the promise of a new chapter in interstellar relations. Yet amidst the wonder of this unprecedented dialogue, Drake couldn't shake the feeling that Alarion's words hinted at something far greater, a mystery that extended beyond mere diplomacy or cultural exchange. Her references to ancient frequencies and evolutionary paths suggested depths to Silverian society that even their closest allies had never suspected. As she spoke of bridges between worlds and keys to the future, Drake found himself grappling with possibilities that challenged everything he thought he knew about the universe and humanity's place within it. The transformation sweeping through the Crystal Palace was nothing short of seismic. News of Princess Alarion's unprecedented conversation with Captain Drake spread through the corridors faster than light through a vacuum, igniting a chain reaction of events that rippled through every level of Silverian society. Courtiers who had grown accustomed to the princess's silent presence found themselves struggling to adjust to her newfound voice, its melodic tones carrying nuances that defied simple interpretation. The servants who had quietly mourned her muteness now moved through their duties with a mixture of awe and trepidation, unsure whether to celebrate or fear the changes that seemed inevitable. Emperor Valon and Empress Muriel summoned Captain Drake to the royal chamber, their expressions a complex tapestry of emotions. Hope warred with caution in their crystalline eyes as they questioned the human diplomat about his extraordinary encounter with their daughter. The captain's account of Alarion's revelations about ancient frequencies and evolutionary connections left the imperial couple both elated and profoundly unsettled. While they rejoiced at their daughter's return to speech, they recognized the implications of her words, the possibility that the Silverian civilization harbored secrets even its rulers had forgotten. Throughout the palace, the human delegation found themselves treated with a mixture of reverence and suspicion. Scientists who had previously maintained professional detachment now sought private conversations with their Silverian counterparts, probing for clues about the mysterious, ancient frequencies Alarion had mentioned. Diplomats who had come prepared for standard negotiations found themselves navigating uncharted territory as Silverian officials began hinting at deeper truths about their species' origins. The carefully planned agenda of cultural exchange and technological cooperation was rapidly evolving into something far more profound and potentially dangerous. The Silverian media, long accustomed to speculating about the Silent Princess, now faced a reality that exceeded their wildest theories. Journalists camped outside the palace gates, their reports growing increasingly sensational as fragments of information leaked through the court's usually impenetrable security. The phrase "ancient frequencies" became a rallying cry for conspiracy theorists and legitimate researchers alike, sparking debates that divided Silverian society in unprecedented ways. Some viewed Alarion's awakening as a divine sign of destiny fulfilled, while others saw it as a threat to the carefully maintained order of their civilization. Within the royal family itself, tensions simmered just below the surface. Prince Valon, Alarion's younger brother, watched his sister's transformation with a mixture of admiration and resentment. Having grown up in the shadow of the Silent Princess, he found himself struggling to reconcile the sister he had known with the enigmatic figure who now commanded attention with every word she spoke. His position as heir apparent suddenly felt less secure, not because of any direct threat to his succession, but because Alarion's emergence as a vocal force suggested possibilities that had never before been considered. The palace's ancient AI systems, designed to monitor and record all significant events within the royal domain, began exhibiting anomalies that baffled even their creators. Data streams from the night of Alarion's first conversation with Captain Drake showed inexplicable fluctuations, as if the very act of her speaking had somehow influenced the fundamental coding of reality within the palace walls. Technicians reported strange harmonics in the building's crystalline structure, vibrations that aligned perfectly with the frequency patterns of Alarian's voice. Meanwhile, Captain Drake found himself increasingly isolated from his human colleagues. While they celebrated the breakthrough in Silverian-human relations, few understood the depth of connection he felt with Princess Alarian. His superiors expressed concern about his growing emotional involvement, warning him about the dangers of becoming too personally invested in diplomatic affairs. Yet try as he might to maintain professional distance, Drake couldn't deny the powerful sense that he was meant to play a crucial role in whatever destiny awaited both their species. As days turned into weeks, the initial shock of Alarian speaking gave way to a new normal that felt anything but ordinary. The princess began taking active roles in court proceedings, her contributions marked by insights that often left even the most experienced advisors speechless. She spoke rarely, choosing her words with precision that suggested she had spent her years of silence crafting exactly what needed to be said. Each utterance carried weight, as if the very fabric of Silverian society was being rewoven with every sentence she spoke. The human delegation's presence became increasingly entangled with Silverian affairs, their original mission parameters expanding to encompass mysteries they hadn't anticipated. Scientific instruments brought for routine data collection began registering phenomena that defied conventional physics, while cultural artifacts loaned for study revealed hidden compartments containing technology far advanced than anything currently understood. These discoveries only deepened the mystery surrounding Alarian's words about ancient frequencies and evolutionary paths, suggesting that the princess's silence had perhaps been a protective measure against forces not yet fully comprehended. Amidst this whirlwind of change, Alarian and Captain Drake continued their private meetings in the observatory. These encounters, initially focused on diplomatic matters, gradually evolved into something more profound. They discussed everything from quantum mechanics to poetry, finding common ground in their shared appreciation for the universe's mysteries. Alarian revealed aspects of Silverian culture that had never been shared with outsiders, while Drake offered insights into human history and philosophy that opened new perspectives for the princess. Their conversations often drifted into territories neither had anticipated exploring. Alarian spoke of dreams she had experienced during her years of silence, visions of stars aligning in impossible configurations, of crystalline structures growing across galaxies, of voices singing in harmonies that transcended physical existence. Captain Drake listened intently, recognizing patterns in her descriptions that matched anomalies recorded by human deep space probes. Together they pieced together fragments of a puzzle that seemed to connect their species in ways neither their governments nor their scientists had ever imagined. The emotional impact of these revelations weighed heavily on both participants. Alarian struggled with the responsibility of her newfound voice, knowing that each word she spoke carried implications for both her people and humanity. Captain Drake wrestled with the ethical dilemmas of representing his species in matters that transcended traditional diplomacy. Their bond deepened through shared confidences and mutual understanding, creating a bridge between worlds that felt simultaneously fragile and unbreakable. As they worked together to unravel the mysteries hinted at in Alarian's initial revelations, they discovered that the ancient frequencies she had mentioned weren't just metaphors or abstract concepts. Instruments in the observatory began detecting subtle vibrations in space-time itself, patterns that responded to Alarian's voice in ways that defied current scientific understanding. The princess's speech seemed to resonate with fundamental forces of the universe, suggesting that her silence had been more than personal choice. It had been a necessary condition for maintaining balance in forces not yet fully comprehended. These discoveries created new challenges for both species. Human scientists, bound by strict protocols and safety regulations, found themselves torn between the desire to pursue groundbreaking research and the need to protect their home world from potentially dangerous technologies. Silverian scholars, traditionally conservative in their approach to sharing knowledge, faced pressure from various factions within their society about how much information should be revealed to their human counterparts. The situation became further complicated by the emergence of extremist groups on both sides, humans who viewed the developing relationship as a threat to their species' autonomy, and Silverians who believed their ancient secrets should remain guarded at all costs. Through it all, Alarian and Captain Drake maintained their unique connection, their private discussions serving as both sanctuary and crucible for the ideas shaping the future of interstellar relations. They developed a system of communication that transcended language, combining verbal exchange with subtle gestures and shared silences that carried more meaning than words alone. This evolving relationship became the foundation upon which larger diplomatic efforts rested, even as the mysteries they uncovered grew more complex and potentially dangerous. As the crisis deepened, Captain Drake found himself making decisions that would define not only his career but potentially the future of humanity's place among the stars. Each choice carried the weight of countless lives, both human and Silverian, and the consequences of failure loomed larger with each passing day. The captain's log entries from this period show a man grappling with responsibilities far beyond those of a typical diplomat, forced to navigate waters where traditional protocols offered little guidance. Princess Alarion, meanwhile, faced her own internal struggle. The burden of leadership pressed heavily upon her newly vocal shoulders, compounded by the realization that her voice carried power she barely understood. Historical records reveal moments when she retreated to the ancient archives beneath the palace, spending hours communing with artifacts that predated recorded Silverian history. These sessions, conducted in complete solitude, yielded insights that she shared only with Captain Drake, further strengthening their unique bond. Together, they began uncovering evidence of an ancient alliance between humans and Silverians, predating the rise of modern civilizations on either world. Fragments of star charts, encoded messages embedded in crystalline structures, and genetic markers shared by both species pointed to a shared origin story that challenged everything both cultures believed about their respective evolutions. The implications of these discoveries threatened to upend established power structures on both sides, creating dangerous rifts within each society. The tension reached a breaking point when elements within both the human delegation and the Silverian court attempted to seize control of the emerging technologies. Security breaches occurred with alarming frequency, forcing Captain Drake and Princess Alarion to operate in increasingly clandestine circumstances. They established secret meeting places throughout the palace, utilizing the very frequencies Alarion had first mentioned to communicate without detection. These hidden encounters became vital nexus points where crucial decisions were made about how to proceed without triggering widespread panic or military conflict. As they worked to prevent catastrophe, Alarion and Drake uncovered deeper layers to the mystery of the ancient frequencies. The vibrations responded not just to Alarion's voice, but to specific emotional states shared between her and the captain. This discovery suggested that the connection between their species ran deeper than genetics or shared history. It hinted at a fundamental resonance between human and Silverian consciousness itself. The realization transformed their mission from one of diplomatic negotiation to something far more profound, the preservation of a cosmic balance that neither species had fully understood until now. The weight of their responsibility grew heavier with each revelation. They found themselves protecting not just their respective peoples, but the very fabric of reality as both species knew it. Ancient safeguards, long dormant within Silverian technology, began activating in response to their investigations, creating situations that required immediate action but offered no clear solutions. Through it all, the bond between human captain and alien princess strengthened, forged in the fires of crisis and tempered by the knowledge that their choices would shape the destiny of two worlds. In the heart of the Crystal Palace's deepest vaults, Captain Drake and Princess Alarion discovered a chamber that defied both Silverian and human understanding. The walls pulsed with light patterns that seemed to breathe in sync with their combined presence, revealing constellations that didn't exist in any known star chart. Alarion's voice, when she spoke here, created visible waves in the air, each syllable forming geometric shapes that lingered before dissolving into new configurations. The captain's instruments went haywire, recording data streams that contradicted fundamental laws of physics while simultaneously confirming theoretical possibilities scientists had dismissed as mathematical curiosities. Their exploration of this chamber revealed something even more astonishing. The frequencies Alarion had first mentioned weren't just ancient, they were alive. Microscopic crystalline organisms, invisible to standard scanning equipment, thrived within the walls, responding to certain vocal patterns with behaviors that suggested intelligence far beyond anything either species had encountered. These entities appear to feed on the emotional resonance between different species, growing stronger when genuine understanding occurred and weakening when conflict arose. The implications were staggering. These organisms might represent a form of consciousness that had evolved alongside both humans and Silverians, influencing their development in ways neither civilization had recognized. As they delved deeper into the chamber's secrets, Alarion and Drake encountered manifestations that blurred the line between technology and biology. Structures that looked like machinery transformed into organic forms when touched by Alarion's voice, while panels that seemed purely decorative sprang to life when the captain's human presence interacted with them. The chamber itself appeared to be learning, adapting its responses based on their combined input. Historical records stored within began translating themselves into a hybrid language that incorporated elements from both Silverian and human tongues, creating a new means of communication that felt more natural than either original language. The crisis escalated when rogue elements from both species attempted to weaponize these discoveries. A faction of human scientists, driven by fear of losing technological superiority, tried to extract samples of the crystalline organisms for study. Simultaneously, extremist Silverians sought to seal the chamber permanently, believing its secrets were too dangerous for any species to possess. The resulting confrontation threatened to destroy not just the chamber but potentially unravel the very fabric of space-time within the palace. Faced with this imminent disaster, Alarion and Drake made a decision that would change everything. Using their unique connection, the resonance between Alarion's voice and Drake's human presence, they activated a protocol within the chamber that nobody had understood until that moment. The crystalline organisms responded by weaving themselves into a protective lattice around the entire palace, creating a temporary stasis field that froze the conflict in place while allowing Alarion and Drake to continue their work uninterrupted. This action revealed a truth that shook both their foundations. The chamber wasn't just a repository of ancient knowledge or a biological phenomenon. It was a node in a vast network connecting similar sites across the galaxy, each one maintained by pairs of beings from different species who had achieved the same level of mutual understanding that Alarion and Drake now shared. The frequencies weren't just communication tools. They were the threads holding together a cosmic web of consciousness that spanned civilizations and eons. As they accessed more of the chamber's capabilities, Alarion and Drake discovered that their connection had awakened dormant nodes throughout the galaxy. Long-abandoned sites on distant worlds began reactivating, drawing attention from other species who had forgotten or never known about their existence. The implications were enormous. Humanity and the Silverians weren't just negotiating a treaty or sharing technology. They were stepping into a role as guardians of a galactic heritage that transcended individual species or civilizations. As they grappled with these revelations, Alarion and Drake realized they had become more than just representatives of their respective species. They had become catalysts for a transformation that could either unite the galaxy in unprecedented harmony or trigger conflicts that would make previous wars seem insignificant. The weight of this responsibility pressed upon them, demanding decisions that would affect not just their lifetimes but potentially the evolution of consciousness itself throughout the cosmos. As the chamber's energy reached its peak, Alarion and Drake stood at the heart of the convergence, their voices merging into a single harmonic resonance that stabilized the dimensional rift. The crystalline organisms formed a luminous bridge between worlds, signaling to unseen guardians that balance had been restored. Across the galaxy, dormant nodes flared to life, their light touching civilizations on the brink of chaos, offering hope where despair had taken root. The rogue factions, witnessing the harmony achieved through unity rather than conflict, reluctantly stood down, their fear transforming into awe. Emperor Valon and Empress Muriel embraced their daughter's new role, understanding now that her silence had been a prelude to this cosmic awakening. Captain Drake transmitted a final message to Earth, not with words but through the ancient frequencies, ensuring humanity would remember its place in the greater symphony of existence. Together, Alarion and Drake stepped into the luminous bridge, becoming living conduits for the frequencies that bound the galaxy together. As they vanished into the light, the chamber sealed itself once more, leaving behind only echoes of their shared voice, a reminder that connection transcends species, time, and space. And so, the stars themselves seemed to hum with renewed purpose, singing of unity forged from silence and understanding born from trust.